going on, everybody? Welcome back to ICNV Drivers Edition. Today I got a very interesting topic for you because it's kind of sparked up by a couple of people out the chat for one of the previous videos, and it's based off a conversation I had with somebody about eating wings at Hooters. Yes, I said eating wings at Hooters. So, is the C8 worth $20,000 over MSRP? Let's talk about it. If this is your first time to the channel, my name is Sho. This is ICNV Drivers Edition. We have interesting conversations brought by my community because we are an interactive community, which means that if you reach out to me on any one of my social media platforms or in the comments below, I will do my best to respond. And if the topic you bring up is interesting enough, I may shoot a video on it. And that's kind of how we got here today. I was out in Statesville, North Carolina. And I'm not a big channel, you already know that. But it's nice to be recognized. And somebody that saw me brought up a conversation piece about my thoughts on paying over MSRP for a car. What's the actual value of the C8 right now? Why do I think the C8 is still worth a lot of money? And why they believe the C7 Z06 is really worth more than a C8. I said, well, let's have the conversation. To me, if you focus on the basics of it, and I say the basics, if you're not paying cash for a car, it's hard to really say the value of something. And I know many people are going to sit there and say that's not true, this is that, and so forth and the other. But let's be real about it. So most people, and I will say most, purchase a Corvette with the intent on paying it off. Not all. Then on the flip side, you have another part of the Corvette community that purchased a Corvette with the intent to keep it 3 to 4 years. So I just want you to understand that the C8 has brought out a lot of, I would say, one and done owners, in some cases 2-year owners. But typically, when a person buys a Corvette, especially the Corvette loyalists, or the history of purchasing a Corvette, most Corvette owners own their cars 3 to 4 years. Many pay off their Corvettes. Now, I don't know how this statistic is actually calculated, and maybe it's because it's like first-time owners or whatever, but I saw somewhere back in 2018 a crazy statistic that sat there and said most Corvette owners buy their cars and own them 4 or more years. And that's where that's where this information is coming from. Just so you know, this is back in like 2017, 2018. And I just thought that was amazing that people own their cars that long. And I had my Corvette, being honest with you, only had it 2 years. After 2 years, I got out of it. I'm usually a 3-year owner with most cars, and I move on unless I really like it or I have something else to draw my attention away from it that I appreciate it whenever I get behind the wheel. For the first time in a long time, me owning my C7, that was the only car I owned, so I knew that ownership was going to be short-lived. But that's not the point. Going back to the information I was just talking about. So if you know people who are paying cash, they're going to sit there and say, this is how much cash I have, and this is what I'm willing to spend it on. If you're going to walk in a dealership, cut a check outright for the car, which is amazing if you can do that, then you will sit there and say whatever they're advertising the car for today is what the car is worth. Honestly, most people that write checks for cars and pay them off at that moment never think about future values of the car, because if they did, they may be a little more hesitant to sign a check for the car outright today. Let that sink in. So if you are that person, then yes, when you look at a car today, you're saying, man, this is what I expect the car to be. This is what I'm willing to pay for the car. But when you start paying car notes, I don't want to group everybody into the same conversation, but I know when I talk to people about car notes, they start thinking about the money they have to pay every month and the amount of time they're paying it. So when you look at a C7 Z06 or a C8 Corvette, you start to ask yourself, what am I willing to pay each month for this car? And the first thing I would sit there and say when it comes to value when determining both of these cars is, more people are willing to pay more money monthly for a Corvette C8 than they are for a C7 Z06. The quick response is going to be, well, the C7 Z06 has been out for a longer time. But I don't really think that's a true factor. And I'll tell you why. When you look at the C7 Z06, 2015, you couldn't get a rebate on a C7 Z06. I believe late 2016 or 2017, you could actually get rebates on the C7 Z06. So even at that point in time, people were getting the cars at a discounted rate. I remember this conversation because I bought my 2016 Corvette, and one of the guys that bought his Z06, his story was he actually ordered the C7 Z06, but when it came in, he had a little financial situation and he couldn't get the car. The car sat on the dealer's lot that he ordered it from for a complete year, only for him to turn around and buy the car that he ordered, heavily discounted and with the rebate. He was like, yeah, so literally I ordered my car, I didn't pick it up when it came in, it sat on the dealership lot for about a year, and then finally I got the car, they took $6 grand off of it and they gave me the $6,500 rebate. So he got $12,500 off a C7 Z06. For the large amount of time that the C7 Z06 was out, there were rebates available. For a large amount of the time that the C7 Z06 was out, they were heavily discounted. If you think about that, one figure that always stuck in my mind is that when most people were trying to buy the C7 Z06, they were trying to stay under $90,000 paid total with car payments. Think about that. Let's take a quick break and do me a favor. Go ahead and hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel. Help me reach my goal of 25 before 25, which is 2,500 subscribers before the year 2025. We're chasing the movement. Be part of it. Join the channel, especially if you like the content you've seen so far. We have more stuff like this coming your way, and you too can help guide the focus of the content that comes your way. So subscribe to the channel, hit that like button. Now, the funny part about all that is a lot of the C7 Z06 is sold anywhere between $72,000 and I want to say $84,000 with rebates. The 2019 C7 Z06 actually had 0% financing, no payments for X amount of times, and you could apply employee pricing to the car because they were trying to move them because nobody would buy them. And even still in that situation with employee pricing and 0% interest, people were walking away with car notes that totaled out after 72 months of legitimately $90,000. So to me, that became the base price or the price or the value of the C7 Z06. And even to this day, when you go online and look at them, most C7s listed sell for a price that when you apply the average interest rate, the monthly payment still equals out to somewhere right around $90,000. Most C7 Z06 owners that I talked to today pride themselves on not paying more than $90,000 for their car. Think about that. So to me, that is the value that has been predetermined by the customer base for the C7 Z06. When we look at a base C8, the Corvette came out, it was marked up $20,000, $30,000, in some places $40,000, and you were a fool if you paid $50,000, but I'm sorry, I'm not calling anyone names. You were very financially stable and well off if you paid $50,000 for the base C8. But some people paid above MSRP. Let's be real, a lot of people pay above MSRP. But just like that, they were getting great interest rates. When I look at it, most C8 owners that paid over MSRP, that had a very decent interest rate, still found themselves paying somewhere around $110,000 to $118,000 for this car if they make every single payment. Interesting, huh? Well, what's funny about that now is people are buying cars today for $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 with discounts on MSRP. And even with these discounts, people are still paying with the monthly payments added on based off the crazy interest rates today. They are paying close to $25,000 more than what the car is MSRPing for, or what they're buying it for. Let's just keep it real. They're paying that more than what they're buying it for. I laugh at this because the average C8 monthly payment that people are willing to disclose is about $1,350 a month. I know many people that are above that. I know people that have $1,650 payments. I know people that have $1,700 a month payments. I met you at Corvette and Carlisle. I know people that are paying $2,400, $2,500 a month for a Z06, a C8 Z06. So trust me, people are spending the money. I know a lot of people like that is absurd. I can tell you right now, I know people. I'm not going to say their name. We've met, we've had conversations, especially when they were trying to convince me to go ahead and take that jump on a C8 Z06. When I was just like, I just don't want to commit $2,000 a month to a car. And it's amazing how many people are actually paying $2,400, $2,500, $2,600 a month for a C8 Z06. Now you know my holdup. So in the midst of all this, like I said, I see and I know people that are paying $1,350 to $1,800 a month for a C8 Corvette. Not a Z06, not an E-Ring. A base C8 Corvette. I know people that waited because they were saying, oh, I refuse to pay a markup for a car. And they are signing up for cars this year towards the end of 2023. And they're still paying $1,350 to $1,600 a month for a car. And my answer is, you could have been paying that same money with a better interest rate back in 2020 and 2021. But again, I think people get caught up on the wrong thing because they're not looking at what they're paying, they're looking at what's put in front of their face. And I go to say all this because if you actually focus on the dollar amount of what you're spending and what it equals up to, you will realize a lot of people are paying more for a C8 than they ever would have paid for a C7 Z06. So yes, people are saying the C7 Z06 is more rare than a base C8, and I would give you that because the production numbers are nowhere near what the C8 production numbers are. But that doesn't mean that people want to pay for that car. And that's kind of where my conversation led with this individual. Now I want you to tell me in the comments below, what's the most you're willing to pay for a C7 Z06? Because I've actually thought about getting one, and I hate to say it, even though the car is more powerful and it doesn't have a bad interior, I still will not pay anywhere near the payment I was paying for a C8. To be honest with you, I still think about paying less for a C7 Z06. Like just to be real with you, even when I look at C7s today or C7 Z06s, I don't want to pay more than $66,000 for a C7 Z06. And I look at the monthly payments that get proposed based off this 8%, 9% interest rates that they're throwing around money going north. And I'm just like, I really don't want to pay $1,300 a month for a C7 Z06. I don't really want to pay $1,100 a month for a C7 Z06. I think truthfully, which is my hiccup, is the most I'm willing to pay is $1,000. And if you think about that, at 72 months, that's $72,000. And that's why I haven't really moved forward with the ownership of a C7 Z06. And when I talk to a lot of people, even though they know the C7 Z06 is faster, and there are people that show interest in getting a C7 Z06, I still run across the same situation. Nobody wants to pay $1,100, $1,200 for a C7 Z06. I always get the response, I might as well just buy a base C8. And that's crazy because in their minds, paying $1,200 for a base C8 is a better deal. Let that sink in. I know everybody's not going to agree with me in this conversation. Like I said, please tell me how you think about this in the comments below. Let's talk about it. But this is the information I wanted to get out because, like I said, this was an interesting conversation piece to me because I think the value of the car really comes down to what you're willing to pay for it monthly. And I know that doesn't sit well with a lot of people, but realistic, if your interest rates put you into a space where you got to pay something uncomfortable for a car and you're willing to do it, I think it matters. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. But as I said before, ICNV Driversedition, go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, join the ICNV Driversedition community. We are an interactive community, which means if you hit me up on any one of my social media platforms or in the comments below, I will do my best to respond. And if the topic you bring up is interesting enough, I may shoot a video on it. So don't be afraid to hit me up, guys. Come on, hit me up. Let's have a conversation. Because I like these conversations because it makes people think and reevaluate things or look at things differently. That's the purpose of having people to conversate with, because I'm not saying I'm here to change your mind, but what I'm sitting there saying to you, sometimes if you look at things differently, it'll help you make a decision that you've been tap dancing around or you think may not be the right decision. Trust me, that was me. I could go into a whole nother conversation about it, but I'll just say this. One of the richest people I know personally had a sit down with me, and we were talking about how I spend money and financially and the unrational things that we think of being extra cautious with our money, and we end up spending more in the long run or not getting what we really want because we're afraid to spend something based on a conception that we have about what's acceptable in society. Again, that's totally different, but we can talk about that another time. Remember, we were all made in his image and given dominion over the world, which means we weren't just meant to be. So chase your dreams, build your visions, never give up, and embrace your own identity. Remember, it is okay to be unique. He's not done with you, and he's definitely not done with me. So stay safe, stay blessed, and I will see you in these streets. Peace.